Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the continuation of Unit 4. This is the design process. Today we're in Lesson 7, which is the end of Chapter 1, and it does consist of a project. This is your major project that will finish you up before you actually start the app itself. This is called the paper prototype. It's much like what we did in the last lesson. You're going to kind of follow along much the same instructions. You're going to use the same type of activity guide. Well, this time everything's going to be handed in. And in the end, when you do your slides, there's a couple different things I've done with my classes. Some of them have taken slides and actually put them on posters and ran string or lines from one slide to the other so that they have different ways to show how the app will navigate. But we'll get to that in a couple minutes. First of all, let's go over some overview. Based on the paper interview from the previous lesson, each of your students came up with an idea for an app that will address the user's problems. Students then got to create their own paper prototype of the app idea by drawing scenes on individual note cards. Okay, so that's what you're going to be doing again today, much like what we did a little bit in Lesson 6. Project Guide directs you through the process, including building the app and testing it with your user. Okay, so it's going to be much the same as we did last time. Again, you're going to be using an activity guide that is almost exactly the same as Lesson 6. So if you want to follow that, you can kind of use that to kind of guide yourself, maybe improve it a little bit or take some things out, add some things as you go. All right. So the objective today is to design the functionality of an app to address the specific needs of a user, identify improvements to an app based on the user's testing, and design the user interface of an app. In other words, make your paper prototype. All right, so in our overview, we're going to use the interview information from the previous lesson. You will come up with an app or app ideas to address the needs of your users. To express these ideas and test out their effectiveness, each student creates and tests paper prototypes on your own. All right, so again, let's go into the activity guide first of all. If I did not provide the activity guides, I'm going to try putting all the activity guides, the rubric, and the reflection sheet in this lesson. Again, if it's not there, ask your instructor for the information and they'll print off a copy for you. All right, first of all, project guide, paper prototype. Overview. For this project, you will be creating a paper prototype of an app to help a classmate learn something new. You should already have interviewed your classmate and identified a barrier of their learning. Okay, I'm not going to read all through this again because it's exactly the same as we used in Lesson 6. In fact, if you look at it, it even says Unit 4, Lesson 6. It's the exact same activity guide. Okay, remember we designed our problem? I'm going to walk through all the steps again. If you need to go back and look at Lesson 6's activity guide, do that for a reference. I'm not going to answer the problems for you. This is your final project. You're doing this on your own. I'm just going to give you the information to use for it, and you will proceed with that. Okay, once again, we're defining the problem. What does your classmate want to learn? What barriers prevent them from learning it? What types of app will help you address your user needs? Okay, you're going to prepare it. As a class, you should have discussed types of apps that can address your user's needs. Okay, with your partner, if you had a partner, you should be able to answer the question down below. List the minimum features your app will need to meet your user's needs. Okay, then you're going to sketch your screens out. And in this activity guide, I have provided you with some screens or some actual blank squares on a piece of paper. You may want to make those bigger. So what I would do is, if I want to make my screens much bigger to put on a poster, I would take a piece of paper and maybe cut it into fours. That'll give you 4 nice screens to put up on your poster. I've also had students go and take a small piece of cork and attach their screens to the cork and run string yarn to each of the pages for their paper prototype. And it showed actually where if you pressed a button on page 1, it would go to page 3, and it had colored yarn going back and forth to that. It was kind of a very good idea. Of course, it got them an A for it, just for the creativity they used to create their paper prototype. Okay, let's move on. Create your screens. You'll be given note cards. So note cards is another thing to use if you don't want to use paper to draw the final versions of your screens. Okay, then create your screens and how they're going to work. User testing, you can reflect on it. Reflect, you will test your app with your user. You can use anybody at home. If you have to be doing this at home, use a sibling or as a parent, test it with them. See what they thought about it. Get some reactions from them. Create your poster. Okay, what your user is trying to learn. What is the barrier they're learning? In other words, create your poster so it's easy to navigate. What am I looking for in the app? What is your paper prototype going to do to help me learn that? Is it going to navigate me to the right pages? Is it going to stop at a page and then I can't get back? Different things to think about when you're creating your paper prototype. Any information about how the user interacts with the app needs to be included on this page. Okay, so anything that you want to talk about that you want involved or included in the app should be on each of those pages. All right. I would like to see at least 6 pages or 6 screens done, 6 note cards, 6 separate pieces of paper for each screen. That would be great. If you have 6 pages, it's a good app. 2 or 3 kind of limits you on what you're trying to do. So try and create 6 or more. That's the best way to get a nice A or a nice grade out of that. Okay, user testing guide. Again, have somebody test it once you're done. And that would more than likely be a teacher. Your instructor who is grading your final project would probably use this, but do use it as kind of your peer review. There is no peer review with this section. So use this as your peer review. Give it to somebody and record their findings. In the what I tried and my reaction columns, include what your user did to complete each task. So this will kind of be your peer review. Give it to somebody, give your poster to somebody, let them look at it and try and complete this portion of it. All right. And that's pretty well it as far as what we're trying to do in the paper prototype. This paper prototype is now going to get you ready for creating your app. Okay. If you want to look at, here is the rubric for this project. You can take a look at that. I included that. I'm not going to go through it with you, but it kind of gives you the idea of what we look for from extensive evidence to convincing evidence, limited evidence to no evidence at all. And of course, you can figure out what kind of grades you get from that. Now, based on this rubric, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sections. I might go 20 points per section for 100 points total. But that's up to your instructor. You'll have to talk to them to find out what they want to do. And then at the final end of it, go ahead and do a reflection on it. What did you learn from creating your paper prototype? Did it help you get you ready for your app? So kind of follow along and do that and complete that. The complete packet will be due with your poster as the final project for unit 4, lesson 7, which is chapter 1. So you will be graded on that portion, and then it'll take you right into the creating the app from what you've done on your paper prototype. So I hope you enjoyed this portion. Again, we've just finished chapter 1. We will now be going into chapter 2 of unit 4, and that is actually creating your app. So enjoy this. Make sure you do turn it in and turn in it completed. And I will see you in chapter 2. Thank you very much.